From light's perspective, no time passes at all. Sit with that for a second before you move on. Don't skim past it. This single fact breaks the way you've understood existence since the day you were born. The light hitting your eyes right now, the light that let you read this sentence, the light bouncing off this screen and into your retina, experienced 0 seconds getting here. Not a short time, not a fraction of a second. 0. Nothing. No duration at all. For you, that light traveled a distance. For you, it took time, however small, to cross the space between the screen and your eyes. But for the light itself, there was no crossing. There was no before it left and no after it arrived. Departure and arrival happen in the same instant, because at the speed of light, time itself stops functioning. This isn't poetry. This isn't a clever way of talking about something else. This is what Einstein's equations demand when you push a reference frame to the speed of light. Time dilates, it stretches, and at light speed it stretches infinitely until it collapses to nothing, which means light doesn't experience a journey. It doesn't experience the universe unfolding moment by moment the way you do. It experiences a single frozen point, one instant, no sequence, no progression, no next. Now compare that to you. You wake up, you move through hours, you feel each one pass, distinct from the last. You remember yesterday, you anticipate tomorrow. Your entire existence is built on the assumption that time flows, that one moment leads to master another, that there's a direction, a river carrying you from birth toward death. That assumption feels so obvious you've never had to question it. But light never has that experience. Light exists completely outside that structure. It isn't moving through time the way you are. It isn't waiting for anything. It isn't becoming anything. It simply is, in one unbroken instant. Everywhere it exists at once from its own vantage point. Think about what that means for the light arriving from distant stars. Light that left its source thousands, millions, sometimes billions of years ago, based on how you measure time. From your frame of reference, that light has been traveling for an almost incomprehensible span. From the photon's own frame, no time passed whatsoever. It left. It arrived. Simultaneously. You are looking, right now, at ancient light that experienced its entire multi-billion-year journey as literally nothing. This is the first fracture in how you've been taught to see reality. You assume time is a universal backdrop, ticking the same way for everyone and everything, everywhere. It isn't. Time is not a stage that the universe performs on. It's a variable, one that bends, stretches, and in the case of light disappears completely, depending on what's moving and how fast. You are time-bound. Every cell in your body ages. Every thought you have occurs in sequence. Every memory you form gets stamped with a before and after. That's the framework you're trapped inside, the only framework you've ever known. Light isn't trapped inside it. Light isn't inside it at all. So when you look at anything illuminated, a sunrise, a screen, another person's face, you're witnessing something that has, in its own frame, never actually traveled, never actually aged, never actually experienced a single second of the process that brought it to you. You are receiving something that, from its own perspective, never left. That's not a metaphor. That's not a thought experiment designed to sound profound. That's relativity, functioning exactly the way the mathematics says it must. And it's the first sign that everything you assume about time, motion, and existence needs to be re-examined from the ground up. Asterisk 2. Here's the part your mind will resist, because it contradicts something you feel every single moment of your life. Time was never a river. You feel time moving. You feel the past sitting behind you, fixed and finished. You feel the future somewhere ahead, unwritten and open. You feel now as a moving point, sliding forward second by second, carrying you along with it like a current pulling a boat downstream. That feeling is so constant, so unbroken, that you've never had a reason to doubt it. The feeling is real. What it's describing is not physics, does not describe a flowing now. Nowhere in the equations that govern the universe is there a variable for the present moment moving forward. That idea, the idea that time flows, that there's a universal now sweeping across all of existence at once, does not appear in relativity. It doesn't appear in any working model of physical law. It's not in the mathematics anywhere, because the mathematics doesn't need it and doesn't support it. What physics describes instead is a fixed structure. Every moment that has ever happened and every moment that ever will happen already exists, embedded in something physicists call the block universe. Past, present, and future are not separate categories, with one of them active and the others not yet real, or no longer real. They are equally real, equally fixed, equally present, in the sense that they all exist within the structure of space-time, the same way every frame of a film exists on the reel, whether or not the projector has reached it yet. Your consciousness is the projector, not the film. The film, the sequence of events, the structure of cause and effect, stretching from the beginning of the universe to its end, is already there. What your mind does is scan across it, frame by frame, generating the sensation of movement. The movement is happening in your head, not in the universe. This is where it gets harder to accept, because now it stops being abstract and starts becoming personal. The moment you call now, this exact instant, the one you're experiencing as you take this in, is not universal. It is not shared identically by everything and everyone in existence. Someone moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light, somewhere else in the cosmos, has a now that doesn't line up with yours. Their present moment can overlap with what you would call your future, not as a philosophical possibility, as a measurable, mathematically confirmed consequence of relativity. Simultaneity, the idea that two events happen at the same time, depends entirely on how fast you're moving and where you're standing. Change the motion, change the position, and the events that count as simultaneous change with it. There is no cosmic clock ticking the same beat for everyone. There is no single, agreed upon now that the entire universe shares. Every observer carries their own slice through the block, their own cut through space-time, and none of those slices are more correct than any other. Which means the now you're so certain of, the one that feels like the only real moment, the one where your past is gone and your future doesn't certainly exist yet, is not a feature of the universe. It's a feature of you. Specifically, it's a feature of a brain that evolved to process information sequentially, one input after another, because that's what kept you alive long enough to reproduce. Your brain didn't evolve to perceive the true structure of space-time. It evolved to track predators, find food, and avoid dying before sunset. So the flow you feel, the sense that time is moving, that this moment is happening and then it's gone, is not the universe in motion. It's a biological illusion generated by a nervous system too slow, too limited, and too locally adapted to perceive reality as it actually is. You've spent your entire life inside that illusion, mistaking the projector for the film. Asterisk 3. Now the part that should actually unsettle you, because this one isn't about distant stars or abstract relativity. This one is about the thing you call you. You are almost entirely empty space, not mostly solid with some gaps, not denser than you'd think, almost entirely empty. Zoom into any atom that makes up your body, the atoms in your hands, your skin, the eyes reading this right now, and you find a nucleus so small relative to the rest of the atom that if the nucleus were the size of a marble, the outer edge of that atom would be roughly a kilometer away. Everything in between is empty. No matter, no substance, just space and the probabilistic cloud of electrons occupying it. That's not a rough estimate. That's the actual architecture of every atom in every cell, in every tissue that makes up the thing you think of as your physical self. The part you call solid, the part that feels permanent, feels dense, feels like an unmistakably real and continuous object taking up space in the world, is, structurally, almost nothing. You are built overwhelmingly out of empty distance between impossibly small points of matter. And it goes further than that, because the sensation of solidity itself is not what you think it is. You don't touch anything, ever. Not once, in your entire life, have you actually made contact with another object. What you experience as touch, the feeling of your hand against a table, your feet against the ground, your skin against another person's skin, is not matter meeting matter. It's electromagnetic repulsion. The electrons on the surface of your skin and the electrons on the surface of whatever you're touching repel each other before they ever get close enough to collide. You are held apart at every single moment by a force field refusing to let two clouds of charge occupy the same space. You've spent your entire life mistaking that repulsion for contact. Every hug, every handshake, every step you've taken on solid ground, none of it was actual touching. It was two fields of empty space, held a fraction of a millimeter apart, pushing against each other hard enough to feel solid. Sit with what that does to your sense of your own body. The thing you protect, groom, feed, and identify as fundamentally you is, at the level of physical structure, almost entirely nothing, held together and given the appearance of solidity by forces you can't see, feel directly, or turn off. And here's the part that goes further than physics into a fact your ego doesn't want to hear. The universe does not know you exist. This isn't a statement about feeling small. It's a statement about thermodynamics. Entropy, the tendency of every closed system to move from order toward disorder, doesn't pause for you. It doesn't make exceptions. Stars don't burn a little brighter or a little longer because you're alive to see them. The expansion of space, accelerating outward in every direction, doesn't slow down out of any respect for what you've built, who you've loved, or what you're afraid of losing. You are, in the strict thermodynamic sense, a temporary, local decrease in disorder, a pocket of structure and complexity that formed inside a universe relentlessly driving toward maximum disorder. Every second you're alive, you're borrowing organization against a debt the universe will eventually collect. Your body maintains its structure by consuming energy and expelling entropy outward, a process that cannot continue indefinitely and was never going to. That is what you are, physically speaking. A brief, local exception to a universal rule. Not a purpose written into the structure of existence. Not a culmination of anything. An exception, temporary, self-sustaining for a while, and ultimately subject to the same collapse toward disorder as everything else. The universe isn't hostile to you. It's not indifferent in some poetic, brooding sense either. It simply doesn't include you as a variable. The laws that govern entropy, structure, and decay were operating billions of years before you existed, and they will continue operating, unmodified, long after you don't. Asterisk IV, asterisk IV. So what do you do with this? Not find meaning anyway. Not, but, isn't it beautiful when you think about it? Not any of the soft landings your mind is already reaching for to cushion what you just read. That's the comforting lie. The one your brain manufactures the instant it senses a threat to its sense of significance. This isn't about comfort. It was never going to be. What you do is recalibrate what you think is real. Start with solidity, because that's the easiest illusion to catch in the act. You walk through the world assuming objects are what they appear to be. Dense, continuous, fixed. They're not. You now know that. The chair you're sitting in, the floor beneath you, your own hands. All of it is overwhelmingly empty space, held into the shape you recognize by forces operating far beneath the threshold of what your senses can detect directly. Solid was never solid. It was a convincing illusion, built by electromagnetic repulsion and your nervous system's inability to perceive anything at that scale. Move to time. You now know now isn't universal. It isn't shared identically by every observer in the cosmos. What you call the present moment is a construction, generated by a brain processing information in sequence, not a feature woven into the actual structure of space-time. Past, present, and future exist together, fixed, the way frames exist together on a strip of film, whether or not the projector has reached them. The flow you feel is not the universe moving. It's you scanning across something that was already there, moved to motion itself. Light, the thing that lets you perceive anything at all, the thing responsible for every visual experience you've ever had, doesn't experience the journeys it takes. Zero duration, no in-between. You've spent your entire life assuming that if something travels a distance, it experiences that distance as time passing. Light proves that assumption false, categorically, every time you open your eyes. None of these are separate facts. They point at the same underlying truth. Your instincts about time, matter, and self were never built to perceive reality accurately. They were built by evolution to keep a fragile organism alive long enough to reproduce on a planet with predators, weather, and limited food. Your senses are a survival interface. They were optimized for speed and usefulness, not for truth. They tell you what you need to know to avoid dying before sunset. They were never designed to tell you what time, matter, or existence actually are. This is why the truth feels so wrong when you first encounter it. It's not wrong. Your intuition is. Your intuition was built for a narrow slice of reality, medium-sized objects, moving at ordinary speeds over short timescales. Step outside that slice, and the intuition stops working. The universe doesn't recalibrate itself to match what feels true to you. You have to recalibrate to match what's actually happening. And what's actually happening runs on laws that don't care what you feel. Light doesn't experience time, whether or not that unsettles you. Your body isn't solid, whether or not that contradicts how it feels to sit in a chair. Your now isn't shared universally, whether or not that threatens your sense of a stable, continuous self moving through a stable, continuous world. None of this was designed to reassure you. None of it was designed at all, in the sense of being built for your benefit. It simply operates the way it operates, and you happen to be a temporary structure existing inside it, capable of noticing, but not capable of changing how any of it works. That is not nihilism. Nihilism says none of this matters. This is something colder and more precise than that. This is the universe operating exactly, indifferently, mechanically, on rules that were true before you existed, that remain true through every civilization that ever rose and fell, and that will remain true after the last trace of you is gone. The precision is the point. Not despair, not meaninglessness, just the raw, unmodified mechanics of what is actually happening, whether you're watching or not. *V. *V. You will keep feeling time pass. You will keep feeling solid. You will keep feeling like the fixed center of your own unfolding story, moving forward through a present moment that seems, to you, like the only real one that has ever existed. None of that will make it true. Reality doesn't run on how it feels. It never did. It runs on how it is, on equations that don't consult your intuition, on forces that don't announce themselves to your senses, on a structure that was fully in place before your nervous system evolved the capacity to misread it as flowing, solid, and centered on you. And it was never, for a single second, waiting on you to notice.